Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
This is a More Than Just Podcast production.
Welcome to Podcast Season 9, Episode 17. My name is Tim Mitchell. I am in Toronto, Ontario, and I'm joined by Jonathan Kuline in Florenceville, Bristol, New Brunswick.
Hello there, kids.
It just rolls off the tongue.
Sure does.
And I'm also joined by Jaime Lopez Jr. in Seattle, Washington.
How's it going?
Jaime Lopez Jr. also slides off the tongue. So once again, another perfect Jonathan and Tim episode. No fact check needed. You know, we did fact check during the show, though, if I remember correctly. But
yeah, I think we did a little live fact checking there.
So it's a day after recording, and I did remember that I did have some fact check, but I forgot to mention it during the taping. I did go and see the Mandalorian Grogu movie, and I just wanted to give some fact check on the available popcorn buckets. So they had, the biggest one they had was a Hasbro. It was the size of a Hasbro Walker. It was like the Walker, engine, whatever you call it, thing from Star Wars. That was around $80 for the large popcorn bucket. There was a life-size Grogu with a metal bucket for $42 roughly. There was a drink cup with Grogu on it, similar to the one that I have here for Sue Storm that Jonathan mentioned. That was around $15. And there was a kiddie-size Grogu drink figure on top of a little cup and a tiny little popcorn thing, and it came with Jolly Rancher gummies as well, and that was $12. So that's the fact check. There were, in fact, some really interesting popcorn buckets. I also looked on eBay today, and there's a hover pram that you could get at some theaters. There's a full-size Mandalorian helmet you could get where the top opens up, and you can kind of like, not the Silence of the Lambs, the one that came after where he's eating Ray Liotta's brain. Or maybe that was Silence of the Lambs. I don't know. Anyway, and there's also a full-size Mando or Din with Grogu on his shoulder, and that was also a popcorn bucket that you see. And of course, the prices on eBay are already incredible. Anyway, that's the fact check. Yeah, so we can just jump right into the headlines and take it away, Jonathan.
Yeah, so after a bit of a controversial first trailer for the new or upcoming HBO Lanterns series debuted a couple of months ago, which people criticized for not having, any lanterns in it or rings or powers or anything interesting like that. We got an updated second trailer this week, and much more feels like it actually fits into the DC universe and not just an extension of the HBO True Detective series, which is what they seemed like they were going for. It was a little, this was definitely felt like it was more on target for my taste. We got to see some rings, we got to see Guy Gardner, a little bit more of the substance of the show. I don't know if that means that they're changing the show at all, or if they're just giving us a little more of a taste of what it's actually like versus a little more vague. But
this is a movie or a show?
It's a show. It's an HBO show. It's coming later this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But set in the DC universe, the same universe as the new Superman, Supergirl, all that stuff. So, what'd you guys think of this trailer?
Well, it was interesting. I didn't realize there was a controversy over the first trailer, which I also saw. It looked very sort of, there was a green ring, and there was a guy running around with a green suit on, and there was a great big green orb around him as somebody tried to shoot at him. But I did get this sort of vibe, like you said, with the two actors, the older young cop / detective kind of vibe, right? And actually, the young actor, I saw him he was in a almost like a Rambo kind of movie.
It was on
a while
Netflix.
back.
Yeah.
It was like he came back from the war and being misunderstood and stuff.
It's where they take away his money and he has to go back and get his money.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was a good trailer. I mean, I saw you posted here, but I think I watched a bunch of trailers a couple of days ago, so I had seen it already. But what do you think? I mean,
yeah, I liked it. I mean, I liked the first trailer. I could see why people may not have been in for, what did we call it in that episode? I think it was like True Detective / Training Day style of tone. And I'll just take a look at the comments here, which are some variant of "There's your green, happy now?" James Gunn probably quotes. It's like a million times in the YouTube comments. And Guy Gardner, who definitely sticks out as like kind of even more absurd with his style.
So which one's Guy Gardner? I don't get that. Is that the older guy, or is there a different
No,
character?
Guy Gardner is the character from the Superman movie, the one who was part of the Justice Gang.
Oh, with the bad haircut?
The Nathan
That's
Fillion
right.
gang,
Yeah,
character.
Right. With the bowl cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah, and we knew that he was in it because when they were filming it, they had said he'd done an interview where he said, yes, in this one, it's much more adult, so I get to swear, and I swore a lot. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah, I think this is hopefully a little more emblematic of what we're going to see. That is a mix of the two types of stories. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with telling it as a buddy cop drama or a Training Day kind of scenario. But I do think that if you did a whole story called Lanterns and didn't have some Green Lanterns in it, it would be pretty weird. So I feel a little more encouraged by this trailer. The next one's some sad news. The voice actor who did a bunch of different things, including the voice of Yoda in the Star Wars Clone Wars series and pretty much all the animation for the last 20 years, unfortunately died this week. His name was Tom Kane, and he was only 64, which is sad. He, in addition to doing a bunch of the voices on Clone Wars, he was also the very terrific voice that you hear when it comes on. It says the drama, and he would come on and he would do these very dramatic introduction pieces on the show. He was also, for a different crowd, or maybe the same crowd, was one of the main voices in Powerpuff Girls. He was Professor Utonium. And yeah, so he, again, the Lego games, video games, Harry Potter video games, Call of Duty. This guy was just a really hardworking voice actor, but pretty indelible as the sort of new voice of Yoda. Did a pretty decent Frank Oz impression, and obviously a big contributor to a show that we all really liked.
So he was Yoda on the Clone Wars and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, sad to hear about that. But sometimes I feel like these voice actors don't get enough of their due for the really incredible work they do. So wanted to pay tribute to Tom Kane and thank you for all your work, sir.
Take it away, Jaime.
Next, we have another trailer. I guess the final trailer, according to this Ars Technica article that we'll have in the show notes for those of you transporting home, about the final trailer for Spider-Noir. This is the Amazon series about Nicolas Cage as Ben Reilly. He's playing, we saw in Into the Spider-Verse, it was the black and white Spider-Noir, but semi-controversial for me. You can watch this trailer and the series itself in either black and white or in, what did they call it? Something hue? True hue full color.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we get to see, like the Sandman and the.
I think the werewolf one did that, right? They had two versions.
Yeah, the Werewolf by Night. Yeah.
So it's gonna be like two. You can watch it either or like.
Yep,
that's my understanding.
Just gonna confuse our algorithms on our devices.
I don't know
what we watched.
I don't know that I've seen how Amazon deals with something like this. So thinking about Hulu, when you have, like, let's say the Japanese animation, instead of doing the way that Netflix does of like, here's the one show and then you choose the English or Japanese language or other languages for voice, and then you can do the same thing for the subtitles. Hulu says, no, that's too hard, bro. there are literally separate episodes that you have to choose between dubbed in English versus original language Japanese. So I don't know what Amazon's going to do here from a UI. So hopefully it doesn't mix and match. I'm sure that will annoy or confuse the heck out of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as an interesting coincidence to that, I noticed this week on the Apple Store that they were selling, or Apple TV Store, I should say, they're selling discounted versions of Mad Max Fury Road and Furiosa. And Furiosa is available in, you basically have to buy them as separate editions, but there is a black and white edition. So if you want it, you have to pay a separate fee for it. But I thought that was interesting that they have both versions available.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's like the extended cut of the Lord of the Rings kind of thing, right? If you want the OG or the new one, right?
Yep.
So,
yep.
And same with The Hobbit. The Hobbit's available in 3D, and it's also available in extended, but not 3D. So
this next one is a couple of weeks old now, given where we're recording, but I just noticed it today. The title is Nearly 50 Years Later, WKRP in Cincinnati becomes a real radio station. Apparently, the Oasis, a Cincinnati-based FM station, has adopted the WKRP letters after they acquired them. So if folks didn't see the WKRP in Cincinnati sitcom from like late 70s, early 80s, probably.
Both, yeah.
Given the vibe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite all-time sitcom. I am a diehard WKRP fan. As a matter of fact, Tim gave me a WKRP T-shirt for Christmas a couple of years back.
As God is my witness, I thought they could fly.
Yeah. If you haven't, it is. It still holds up. It's still super funny. Obviously, it's dated by its references and its clothing and aesthetic and stuff like that. But it was just a brilliant sitcom. And I saw this article, Jaime, and I thought it was interesting that Gary Sandy, who played Andy Travis on the show, is apparently doing spots on it. So yeah, not only does it actually, they've done this rebranding, but they've also they've actually brought back one of the last surviving stars to be a guest.
I think he and Bailey Quarters are the only two left.
I think there's three. I want to say
Les Nessman.
Yeah, Richard Sanders, who played Les, I think is still alive. But yeah, they're down to just. Oh, and I think Tim Reed. Tim Reed's still with us. Venus.
Oh, okay.
So,
no, they just killed him in the. No, did they kill him in Firefly?
Nope. That's the guy from Barney Miller.
Ron
Glass from Barney Miller. Yeah. Same era, but different fella. But yeah, it was. It was really funny when I saw this rebrand, and I thought, it's honestly, I think the headline kind of nails it, which is, how did this take 50 years to come around, Well,
WKRP, according to the article, has been in multiple places, right? So
yeah, cool.
And I just looked it up. I couldn't decide the era, and it's because it's a tweener. It went from September 18th, 1978 to April 21st, 1982.
So what are you getting for Christmas, Jonathan?
What? Oh, is it the next article?
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. It sounds like a Christmas list article.
It could well be, yes. So this is a long time coming. So there was an announcement this week from Marvel that they are finally, and I mean finally, and I'll get into it in a second, going to collect the original Marvel Comics Indiana Jones books for the first time. So this is a weird franchise because when Raiders of the Lost Ark came out and was a big hit, Marvel did an adaptation, which was just a little mini series. I think it's 2 or 3 issues. And then that was such a hit that they spun it off and did something called The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, which was an original series of adventures starring the lead character from Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it included some different stories. It included some of the different characters, but it also told like really unique stories and just kind of did its own thing. They were just fun adventure stories. I read it when I was a kid in the mid 80s and loved it. It was one of my favorite books, and it lasted almost 3 years, and then it eventually went out of publication. They also did adaptations at Marvel for the other first two movies. They did one for oh god, I'm blanking on the names now. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Those two were also done there. And then, like they did with Star Wars comics in the 80s, Marvel just basically didn't see the profit in keeping books around for franchises that were done. Because everyone thought Star Wars was done in the 80s, and everyone thought Indiana Jones was done by 1989. That was the third movie, and it was done. And so they gave up the rights to it, and eventually it moved over to Dark Horse Comics. And Dark Horse, they did a reprinting in a smaller than comic-sized format of these stories from Marvel, as well as they started publishing their own Indiana Jones comics, carried on that legacy, and then actually reprinted some of those as well. But since the acquisition of all things from Lucasfilm, which include all the rights to Indiana Jones, Dark Horse lost the rights to all that stuff. And that was almost 15 years ago now, 14 years ago, that Disney bought all those rights from Lucas. And those books have been in limbo since then. The cost of those comic books, the original comics aren't really that worth a heck of a lot, but the collected editions have become quite valuable for people who just want to have a read of the whole thing and don't want to have to go chase down, for the sake of argument, 40 books. So it's been a kind of a real pain in the bum for people who are fans of this book that it was never available from Marvel. It's one of the most sought after collections. And finally, they have decided they're going to put it into print. So they're printing these 2 volume set that is coming in September, that is going to collect all of the adaptations of the first 3 movies, plus all of the further adventures of Indiana Jones. Doesn't include the stuff that was published later on under Dark Horse's imprint, which is unfortunate because it would really be nice if there was a 3rd volume, although I understand there may be some logistical challenges there, given that was not their stuff. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And they didn't do it. I think a lot of people were kind of expecting them to do it as, one of those Marvel omnibuses, which, those tend to range depending on the number of stories inside. They tend to range from anywhere from about $100 to $150 Canadian, depending on, again, the number of pages, the number of things involved. Here they've decided to go a little fancier. So they're doing them leather bound. They've got this sort of aged leather look that kind of looks like it fits with the Indiana Jones franchise. No, there is no fedora and whip included, but it says right now they're listed. If you want to try and find the old ones, you're paying like hundreds and hundreds of dollars online. They said that these books are going to be $75 US a piece and come out on September 29th. So you can own the whole shebang for $150, or we'll say 200 Canadian in September.
I was going to ask, so if you had an original series, like if you had collected all the books, right? Does publishing them in this sort of format diminish the value of the other ones, or people would still collect them or want them?
Do you know, the funny thing is, in most circumstances, it doesn't really affect individual comic book prices. So if you collected the floppy, actual,
if you had if you had all of the issues, like in your house, for example,
as someone who might actually have that, yes,
yeah, that too. But does publishing this, like, I'm coming into it as a newbie collector, I can just go buy this book, right? I don't have to go and hunt down each individual issue on eBay and whatever, right?
Yes. True, it could. It doesn't generally, because although there's a lot of crossovers, a lot of people, never the twain shall meet. Like, some people who collect comics also collect graphic novels and collected editions. I am one of those people, but not everybody collects both. Some people really only want the comics. Some people only want the collected editions, especially because, I've heard that having a large comic collection can be really a pain in the bum to move around and to store.
Really?
And
I can't imagine that. Or making closets for them.
Apparently it can become a bit of a cumbersome habit to have in your life, to have a huge comic collection. But it really just depends. Some people want to have, the original issues. The thing is, there's been an interesting sort of trend over the last couple of years. The one thing about these collected editions, and that goes for like pretty much across the board, is they are reprinting the stories. That is all they're reprinting. They reprint the cover and they reprint the stories. They do not reprint everything that was in the book.
Like the ads and whatever.
No ads, promotional stuff, no in-house ads.
Like no X-ray glasses,
nothing. Nothing.
Mail in $1 and get a whatever, yeah.
So over the past few years, there has actually been, I want to say it's Taschen, the German book company, that started doing reprinted editions of classic comic books that have everything stem to stern, front cover to back cover, every book, every ad, everything. And so if you want that, you can only get that for a handful of books, Spider-Man and X-Men and stuff like that. So if you are somebody who is a bit of a comic, person, you may prefer to have the original books because they are unique. They really are their own thing. The story is not the only thing about them. I, for one, love reading old comic books, particularly older comics from, I will say maybe pre-2000, because they used to have like a letters page where people would write in and the editors would talk about their, oh, well, why did you do this with this character? Oh, here's what we decided to do. It's almost like pre-blog or pre-social media where you can actually go and you can read these little connections between the fans and the creators. There are in-house ads that have unique art that doesn't exist anywhere else. There is, as you say, Tim, like fun and funny ads. I have a real soft spot for 1970s comic books that have like Hostess Ho-Ho ads in them and stuff like that, where it's like, Dr. J, slam dunking basketballs and then sitting down and eating a Hostess pie. Like they're just great. I love that stuff. That for me, that is like part of the comics experience. But I get it. Not everybody wants that. They might just want to sit down and read just the stories. And so, it's not exactly the same experience. I think in this circumstance, a lot of people have just been really wanting to be able to read these stories because, as scary as this is going to sound to some of us, these books, they started in 1982 and ran till 86. And then if you include the stuff from Last Crusade, 89, I don't like to say this out loud, but 1989 was a long time ago. And there's a lot of people. I mean, we're literally talking a generation and a half of people who never got these books, may not have access to finding the old back issues. And this is it. This is the only way you can read them. So, it is what it is. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. I have a few of the Dark Horse reprints. I actually have 3 out of the 4 those are the things that have lost their value. Those went from rare and very hard to find. And there are still people who would like to have them because they are, those editions will never exist again. They are what they are. But those went from, $100 to $150 a piece online went before this announcement to now most people won't bother looking for them because it's just not worth it. So I wouldn't be surprised if I could find that 4th volume sometime in the next number of years for a lot less than it would have gone for last week.
Well, that brings us to the main part of the show, and we're going to talk about the finale of The Boys, Season 5, Episode 8, The Final Battle, Blood and Bone. So take it away.
Yes, Final Battle. Yeah,
battles actually. Yeah.
So this is it. This is the final episode. It treaded close, I think, and Jaime, you may disagree, to the Hold My Beer. There was a lot of stuff to kind of wrap up. Obviously, last episode ended very sadly with Frenchie dying after holding off Homelander from discovering Kimiko and Sage. This one starts with his funeral, which involved a discussion of a lot of bums, which was pretty funny. And I actually laughed out loud during that part. So basically, they decide that they're going to make this one last run because they discover that what they did actually worked on Kimiko. They provoke her. She has basically gained the same power that Soldier Boy has to negate people's powers. And she gets provoked by Sage, and she uses it on Sage, which is what Sage has wanted all along, right? She says her brain is too loud. She's hated it. She was numbing herself. She was basically lobotomizing herself to try and get out of it.
Oh, so this is a permanent change.
Permanent change. Everybody who loses their powers has lost their powers forever, and they established that in multiple spots.
We'll circle back on that. I have a big question about that.
Yeah. So it starts with Sage. Sage loses her powers and decides that eventually Homelander's going to kill her, so she's going to Harry Potter World in Florida to wait out her days. And the rest of the boys basically decide, okay, this is it. One last mission. We're going to go to the White House. We're going to stop Homelander or die trying. So they basically head that way. I have some quibbles about, we have all the door codes. Like, yeah, they wouldn't change those. That's not a thing they would do.
Well, yeah, but before they get there, though, there's the whole "Oh Father" issue and the vice president / president woman.
Yes. So there's the whole storyline with they basically, Oh Father is still working to convince the masses that Homelander is the second / first coming of God, and that yes, the vice president basically is trying to figure out, like, okay, this can't be a thing, because basically what Homelander says is, like, those who do not truly believe that I am the reincarnation of God, or God himself, will basically be like scorched earth. And so she realizes, I got to do something about it. So Ashley basically says, like, okay, I'm, I got to get out of this. So she's basically tries to, like, probe Oh Father to see if he's on her side, and doesn't seem like it. So then
Bashley, and they call her Bashley. The back of
the back
head.
Of her head is Bashley. Yes, Ashley and Bashley.
Yeah, she's not talking to her, so she can't read, because she's the one that can read the minds, right?
Exactly.
Bashley.
Bashley can, yeah. But then, yeah, Ashley doesn't have access to that. She has to get Bashley to tell her. So, So then, it basically from there, it goes into the mission where they're trying to go and infiltrate the White House. Of course, it turns out to be a trap, because of course it does, and doesn't look like it's going to succeed. But Ashley actually goes and helps them get out, and then runs in the opposite direction. And then we get a bunch of sort of anticipated showdowns. We get Annie fighting the Deep, who in the previous scene was completely and utterly humiliated for the 27th time in a row by Homelander. I just keep you around as a reminder of how pathetic you are. It was pretty nasty. And then, yeah, Huey and Mother's Milk basically try and lure Oh Father away so that Butcher and Kimiko can go in and take on the Homelander. And so you end up with these showdowns basically that we've kind of all been waiting for. We see Annie basically trying to talk the Deep into some sense, like, dude, stop it. You're just such a loser. Like, you have to stop picking the wrong side. Enough is enough. And their fight ends with her hurling him into Lake Ontario. I mean, whatever body of water that is, the Potomac, and him being ripped to shreds by the sea creatures, who are, of course, looking for justice for all the crimes against undersea life that he has committed, including the massive oil spill that they blame him for. So that is the end of the Deep. And then we see, Huey and Mother's Milk trying to take on Oh Father, who is really kind of out of their league. But then the little MacGuffin that they introduced earlier in the episode between Ashley and Oh Father, of this titanium ball gag that he can't scream through, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think it's basically grabs him and
just as Oh Father's about to do his blast.
Yes, and basically blows his head off, and blows his head off all over Huey, who was like, this is like, the look on his face was priceless, of like, this is now the 66th time in this show that I have had blood sprayed all over my face, and here we are again.
Yes, I have to get a new job.
It's a very funny moment. So there goes Oh Father. So we're like, it does feel a little hold my beer in the, cross off the bad guys list here. We end up with the fight between Kimiko and Butcher and Homelander's kind of winning. And then Ryan, who is technically Homelander's son with Butcher's late wife, shows up and is starting to turn the tide. They end up basically restraining Homelander. Kimiko has this little sort of sweet moment where she, I guess, imagines that she sees Frenchie, who says, you don't have to feel anger or hate to make your powers work. You can feel it with love. And so she opens her eyes and she shoots this blast. And not only does it remove Homelander's powers, but it also removes Ryan's powers and removes Butcher's powers. So all three of them are rendered basically human. Yep, pretty much. It basically neutralizes all the compound V in their blood. All three of them are depowered, and when they basically get up, Homelander, goes to use his laser eyes, doesn't work, goes to fly, doesn't work, and they all kind of realize what's happening, and Butcher brutally murders him. After some really, really funny and pathetic dialogue from Homelander about what he'd be willing to do to have his life spared, that we cannot
on camera for all the
that's right,
live broadcast.
True. I forgot to mention that this whole thing is being broadcast as well. This is an address to the nation was going on when they broke in the doors. So basically, not only does everybody see that he is not in fact God, that he has now become mortal, and then is a
pathetic
version of a human being, and then Butcher basically puts a crowbar through his forehead and pops his brain out. So he is dead. So yeah, then we basically pick up all the aftermath after that. So Ashley basically says, like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay the president. She is immediately impeached. Who knew that was possible? A unanimous Congress voted to impeach, if you can believe it. Can you imagine a unanimous Congress? Amazing.
This is my note here. So they kind of shortcut, like, impeachment is the first part, right? That says, okay, there's going to be a trial in the Senate, and it's the trial in the Senate part that actually removes you as president of these United States.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so getting impeached really means nothing, as we learned in.
It's almost like indicted is the equivalent,
Yeah.
So,
well, indicted, you can get indicted and still be president of the United States. It's clearer, right?
You can be a felon. You can be a convicted felon.
Yeah. You can be a therapist and become a president.
And so, we see some of the sort of after
and then they all travel back to the Shire, basically, at the end of the show.
Well, there's a number of endings, but the bottom line is that Stan Edgar, Giancarlo Esposito's character, ends up coming back and says, I'm going to be the interim CEO, and we're going to return Vought to its former glory, and everyone's like, ruh-roh. And there's a sad scene between Butcher and his wife's child Ryan, who is now also human.
Stepson,
yeah, and basically says, like, hey, well, this is all behind us. We can, you and me and my dog can go off and do our own thing. And Ryan's like, yeah, I appreciate everything you've done, but, like, you're a terrible person.
I didn't do this for you.
Yeah, you're a terrible person, and I don't want to have anything to do with you. And he leaves, and then, of course, Butcher's like, well, it's just you and me, to his dog Terror, and of course Terror is passed. We saw that coming, I think, from previous episodes. It looked an awful lot like the end was nigh for poor little Terror. But at that point, when Butcher realizes he doesn't really have much to live for, he decides to take it to the next level and goes to Vought headquarters and is followed by Huey. When he gets there, Butcher reveals that he has put the virus that is going to be able to kill all the superheroes into the water system for the sprinklers. And when people show up for work, he plans on activating it and basically triggering it so that not only does everyone in that building die first, but every soup on the planet would die from this virus. This leads to a final conclusion battle. It's Butcher versus Huey, and it's a bit of a sad twist and turn, but probably not unexpected as well, that the two of them fight. And in a surprising twist, Huey's the one who gets the one up, and he kills Butcher. He shoots him several times, and Butcher basically dies in his arms. Huey's crying, very sad. Cut to the funeral, and everybody's basically says goodbye. Goes and takes Ryan, basically, I think, takes him under his wing and renews his vows, goes back to his wife and his daughter and his family. Kimiko travels to France, where she eats pastries and smiles at the thought of Frenchie. And Huey and Annie start a new business where they're doing some superhero stuff, and they're about
and running an AV shop.
Right?
Yeah,
and running an AV shop. Well, that's his dad's shop, and then having a baby. So yeah, so happy endings on that front, and yeah, that's pretty much where they land the plane.
So my big question is this: okay, I get that everybody wants revenge, everybody wants Homelander to have his comeuppance, whatever. But in my opinion, a better punishment for Homelander would be to be a groveling, subservient nothing running around the world trying to survive. That would have been a better punishment for him than actually killing him. But by the time Butcher kills Homelander, it's, notwithstanding Homelander's previous crimes, it's murder, right? But you know what I mean? Like when he was there groveling, I thought, oh great, he's now going to have to go out. The deep can never go in the water again because all the entire sea life, aquatic life, is against him, right? And that's killing the deep, right, inside. I mean, that to me would have been a much better punishment. You could have had spin-offs where, Homelander's taking your order at the drive-through kind of thing, right? In the future, or mopping the floors or cleaning the toilets,
or the alternative of that is as he establishes, he would have made an interesting prison wife. So again, that also would have been a bit of a fairer comeuppance. Although, given the level of atrocity that we're talking about, I mean, this person is responsible for thousands and thousands of deaths. I just, and again, especially given, if you go right back to the beginning, Butcher's wife, right? So there was no way that Butcher wasn't going to kill him.
Yeah, well, yeah, because he does say this is for my wife, and it's not just for her death, because Homelander didn't actually kill her, but it was for the way he made Ryan by taking advantage of her, right?
Yep.
Yeah, in a bad way.
So here we are at the end. 40 episodes, 5 seasons, 7 years. How do we feel? How did this do as far as a conclusion? How do you feel about this as a final season, as a final for the series?
I mean, it was interesting that they did conclude a lot of storylines, and that Annie and Huey go on and live happily ever after, whatever that means. Kimiko gets to go to France and live out the life that Frenchie sort of laid out for her in terms of what would be, in his opinion, a good life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Butcher kind of got, because what was Butcher going to do? He's kind of almost like the Punisher guy, like once you've punished the people who are responsible, what else is there to do, right? Kind of thing, go be a librarian or something like that, But I'm just thinking of that. What was that movie with Viggo Mortensen where he's like,
A History of Violence.
Yeah, History of Violence. Yeah, he has to go off and live a normal life and, be like a school bus driver or something, right?
Yeah, he's a short order cook. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
And then, and even Saul Goodman ends up being a Cinnabon manager, right? But that's part of his he's hiding there doing that or whatever. So that was good. I mean, but then again, I'm sort of torn between the solution for Homelander. It wasn't the kind of battle I envisioned seeing happen, and especially not in the Oval Office, which is kind of ironic considering today's Oval Office. But so that was kind of like an interesting place to have a battle, and it it did seem like there for a while that Homelander was going to have the upper hand, but I think last episode when he actually gets the V1 and takes it, that kind of was like, that was the ending, or that was a conclusion I wasn't expecting. It was kind of like a heavy duty cliffhanger, right? So over to you, Jaime.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't call this sticking the landing, although I have seen some backlash online. I'm like, guys, maybe the best way of describing this is like the landing that Sully had in the Hudson River. Were like not ideal, but came out really good given the circumstances. It's a landing that you can walk away from, right? And I feel like it did cover in kind of hold my beer moments, just how quickly it does. especially given that the climax happens with like 20 minutes to go. So they actually have a nice denouement. We can pick on, let's say, Star Trek Voyager for sort of smash cutting at the very end of where people wanted to see the show end. You know, not just literally, 0 miles to Earth. Well, show's over. Tony Soprano style. This was like, okay, you got a chance to unwind and see what happens. And I guess semi-spoilers for Breaking Bad, a show that's been off the air for a long time. I feel like the Huey versus Butcher was kind of like the alternate universe outcome for what Jesse Pinkman and Walter White have in the final episode of Breaking Bad, right? Where there's the face-off, and in Breaking Bad, it's like, no, Jesse decides not to. Walter, you're on your own. I'm not going to help you here in any way. Whereas in this case, Huey, for pretty reasonable reasons, is like, hey, I have to stop Butcher. And Butcher having, his own hesitance. I mean, he took his finger off the trigger of the device, right? Because he was distracted by how much Huey looked like, was it Lenny, his brother Lenny?
Yeah.
So, again, I think pretty solid, B- maybe. I mean, it didn't really like stick the landing like we've seen some shows do, but I don't think it's a terrible disaster Game of Thrones season 8 style or anything like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting comparison to that too, because I will say the one thing that the final season of Game of Thrones did well, and you won't hear this a lot, is that it went big. It didn't necessarily do like great things with the big, but it went big. Big dragon fights, big army fights, big Army of the Dead fights. It went big. This felt a little small for the way that it was built up with this, it's Superman versus these other people. Like it felt like, I agree with your point, Jaime, about it sort of landing with like 20 minutes to spare. It was 40 minutes into a 60-minute episode after, 7 years and 5 seasons of build-up. It was over a little bit quick, given those circumstances. I think, Tim's point of like, it would have been nice to have Homelander suffer more. Agreed. Like, but they didn't. It wasn't like it was some massive superhero blowout. It was a pretty, for this show, average fight scene. It didn't feel as, I think, epic as maybe it could have, but then they're working within realistic constraints of television, not the $20 million an episode Game of Thrones budget, right? So, the reality is this is TV. It's really good TV. At times it's exceptional TV, but it's TV. And I think this is probably about as best you could expect.
Now, a word from our sponsor.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Now, back to the show.
So one thing that I haven't really gotten too far into, and I've deliberately not brought up as we've talked about this show over the years, and particularly this last season, I have had people ask me about the comparisons to the comic book series that this is based on, and questions about, well, how does this compare to this part of the book, or what happens to this character? Does this character do this to this character, and all that? And I'm not going to spoil the comic series, but I will tell you this: it is a very different story than what is portrayed here, because it's a comic book and because it can be much more complicated as far as the number of superheroes, the level of extremity as far as, action scenes and stuff like that. There's no constraints in a comic book, right? If you can draw it, if you can imagine it and draw it, then it exists. The characters are the same. Their exact circumstances are not. some characters exist, some characters do not. Some characters exist in the comics that do not exist in the book and in the show, and vice versa. And the ultimate conclusion to how it all plays out is very, very different in the comic book versus this story. This story definitely started to emulate real life stuff, and honestly, I never minded it. I don't think you can look at it as a pure adaptation, it went off the rails like seasons back. Like some of the stories were definitely more similar. The first season is more similar, the second season less so, and depreciating from there. I love The Boys TV show and I love The Boys comic, but they're very, very different things. If you enjoy these characters and want to read something that's almost exactly what Jaime talked about with like an alternate take on the events, go and read the books. You can get them digitally. You can get them physically. Go buy them from a local comic shop. Please don't buy them from some giant conglomerate who may have made this show. They are really, really excellent reads. One of my favorite writers wrote the book, Garth Ennis, and it is drawn by Derek Robertson, who's, again, one of my favorite artists. It's terrific, but it's very, very different. And the way it culminates is just way more twisted and weird. And, some of the characters that have died earlier in this show are still around in the later parts of the comic book. Some of the characters that are still part of the show because they really liked working with that actor, or the character really worked on TV, don't exist or were killed much sooner in the comic book. So it's really a very alternate universe kind of vibe. And yet the characters are pretty true. Homelander is a scumbucket. Butcher is also a scumbucket. Huey is, very much Huey. Like these characters are very much the characters, but the story is very, very different. And so if you enjoyed this and kind of want to go down the next step towards the boys' world, highly, highly, highly recommend the books. Terrific books. But when people say, well, did it finish the same way, or did it all end completely 100% different? So just so you know, if you are looking to sort of, read a more fulsome version or a different whatever, it's there for you. It's going to be a different experience. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it needed to be true. I like what Eric Kripke, the showrunner for this show, did as far as taking it in a bit more of a different direction. I saw a brilliant quote from him this week where he was basically like, we tried to push the envelope as hard as we could, and reality kept knocking us off our feet. As far as the level of like absurdity at the behavior of those in power. Honestly, this show, if you aired this show 20 years ago, people would have been like, this is the most edge-pushing, farthest out there, craziest, most over-the-top thing. And honestly, I call that CNN now. Like, it feels like they tried so hard. And obviously things like Herogasm and some of the stuff that they did certainly was very, very, edgy. But as far as the abuse of power and just the way that people behave in this show, it just couldn't keep up with real life, which is crazy to think. If you had told me when I first started reading this comic book series, 20 years ago, that they would do this, it would be as edgy when it came to the sex stuff, but not even close to edgy enough on the politics and religion and power stuff, I would have never believed you, and yet here we are.
It's pretty nuts. It's pretty nuts because this show, had to be produced like 2 years ago. It's not like they just did it day of. It's not a reality TV show, so the way it's been sort of prophetic, no pun intended, is fascinating.
Yeah, I honestly thought to myself, and I guess we all live in a conspiratorial world now just because of all the circumstances, but I honestly thought to myself when it was the week that Homelander on the show announced that he was going to basically put himself in the place of Jesus Christ. And then there was a parallel in real life where one of the world leaders who everyone knows also put a photo of himself out there portraying himself as Jesus Christ. I found myself thinking, like, there's just no way that this could happen. Is Jeff Bezos sending tapes to the White House? Like, what is happening here? Like, there's no way.
Yeah, I just hope that the current president never watches The Boys.
Well, yeah, because, we won't want him getting any more ideas. But yeah, anyway, it was, I think all things being equal, I don't feel disappointed in this finale. I do think that, yes, they probably could have spread things out a little bit, maybe even gone a little bit longer on some of this stuff. I do think that given the level of monstrosity that Homelander is, I too would have liked to have seen him even more suffer a little bit. But I mean, I get that you got to get where you're going on these kind of things. And Butcher is not a person who wastes time when the opportunity is in front of him. So it makes sense. But yeah, I think all things being equal, I think this show was really fun. I think it definitely pushed the envelope. Huge shout out to Eric Kripke, the showrunner. Huge shout out to Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, who produced this show. Who, again, were not compromising. They were pushing and pushing and pushing. Again, I think this show couldn't have pushed much harder on the craziness, and yet still couldn't catch up to reality.
Yeah, there was a couple of weak points in this. I mean, the show overall was great, but in this particular last couple of episodes, I did like the fact that they did the callbacks to Maeve, but they didn't. They showed her in the preview, but a little disappointed that the actress didn't come back and join the fight. But the way they handled the Gen V kids, right? Mm-hmm. They just kind of dismissed them. Like why even bother? I mean, bring them on to give them? Maybe they promised them bigger roles and bring them on so they can get the big paycheck and the big show, but. Because that was, I guess, it was part of the promise of those actors was you'll get to come into the main franchise, and but there was no fighting, there was no, no powers were used,
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of that, like we're pinning our hopes on you as the next generation if we don't make it through this fight, right? It was kind of that.
Yeah, like, so this is going to be like this is the opportunity for a spin-off sort of thing, where now we have the boys, or maybe the girls now, maybe it's going to be called,
Yeah, who knows?
The boys TNG,
To answer your concern, though, I saw a piece today that we're talking about the actress who played Queen Maeve, and she's retired from acting. They did ask her.
Okay.
They did ask her if she would come out of retirement to do one more part, and she said, "No, I'm committed to moving on with my life as no longer as an actor." And she politely declined the opportunity. She was apparently, Kripke said he invited her, and she just said, no, thank you, I'm done. So I get it. I agree. It would have been nice, especially because, to have her be there.
She was one of the people that, didn't suffered him as a fool, right? Like,
yeah, well, that's it. So it would have been nice to have her have a moment like that too, but what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Cool. All right, well, let's move on to our watch list then, shall we? Okay, I have a bunch of things, and Jonathan doesn't seem to have many.
I abdicated all mine to you because you've got a good long list here, and I've had a very busy week, so this was all I could manage to watch the one show.
So just before the show today, this afternoon, I got to go and see Mando and Grogu in IMAX 3D because I wanted to see it in IMAX, I wanted to see it in 3D, and I wanted to see it on a fairly decent screen. I had to change the theater I was watching it at, but because of work-related things, but I gotta say it blows up real good. There's lots of good pew 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 and lots of John Wick moments. What else can I say? I don't want to spoil anything. There's lots of interesting Easter eggs all the way through. So if you're a fan of any of the Star Trek franchises, and of course Mando and Grogu. It's interesting. A lot of the special effects that you see, or the tricks and stuff you see in the trailer, all happen within the first 10 minutes of the show. So they're holding back too, right? So there are some major battles and stuff like that. Jeremy Allen White was unrecognizable. If you had asked me who the actor was who played that role, I would never have put two and two together and got that person. Because I kept waiting for where is he? Where is he? Like in a stormtrooper helmet, or what's happening? Until I waited for the credits to see what role he plays, and I'm not going to spoil that either. But Yeah, it's a really interesting story. It does borrow a lot from other shows, but like other storylines, not just Star Trek, but because there are some sort of derivative plot points. But I think overall the package is good. I highly recommend it. Yeah. So I mean, even I think even in 2D, even on a regular screen, it's still an interesting movie. It's I could see that they could have made this into like 6 episodes as well, but because there are some really interesting points of story in there. But yeah, it's good that they did it as a movie, I think, right? It's good for Grogu, right?
Yeah.
Any other question?
I'm encouraged by your description, and yet I still feel, even in spite of that endorsement, I still feel very apprehensive. So I am very.
Oh no, it's definitely worth seeing, and I'm not just saying that as I'm Tim, the anything with Star Wars in it is good Mitra. This is a good movie. This is a it's a worthwhile summer blockbuster, kind of go see it in the theater, stuff like that movie. And it's all around the what do you call it, the release date of the original Star Wars, right? It's kind of it fits well with that, right? Yeah, so it definitely was good, and it was fun because I noticed when I came out of the theater that one guy was dressed as Din Djarin, another guy was dressed. He looked more like Indiana Jones to me than anything else, and his girlfriend was dressed in sort of a Star Wars type outfit. So the people, the first nighters, usually on the first night you get people coming out with laser swords, and
Mm-hmm.
I think didn't you and I go to one where the guy came in on a speeder bike?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's some pretty over the top fans out there, but okay. So my question is, Jaime, are you going to see this in the theater?
Yeah, that's the plan. I plan to see this one in the theater. I am also apprehensive about
it's
it.
IMAX 3D, so the 3D is really good. So that if you go see it in IMAX, well, because we talked about that last week, where they or a couple of weeks ago, where they actually make a left and right film, like a left eye film and a right eye film, and then the special glasses. So it is very crisp and clear, and you're not wearing those janky other 3D glasses you see in the other kind of portrayals, right, where they're dark. Yeah, and it's good on the big screen, I think.
Yeah,
I mean the IMAX screen.
I feel like I will still see it. I still am going to go in with a lot of apprehension, I think.
I think even if you see it at the Atlantic Cinema in Woodstock, it's going to be fine.
Yeah. I mean,
sit in the second row like we usually do, right?
yeah. You can simulate it. You can simulate an IMAX experience at least by sitting really close.
Yeah. The sound was really good too. It was like good surround sound on the IMAX theaters. And, there's parts where Grogu's in the forest and you hear birds and crickets and stuff behind you, sort of thing, right? So yeah. And I don't want to go into the plot points that I said they borrow from it. You'll see what I mean when you watch the movie. There are definitely pee break moments as well. So. Oh yeah. So moving on. So I saw a couple of previews. Oh, I should say. So I saw the Supergirl preview on IMAX. Looked pretty good, and I saw the Odyssey trailer on IMAX. But I think probably because I've seen the Odyssey trailer a couple of times, it didn't. The trailer didn't make me want to see the movie. Other than the fact that it's Christopher Nolan, right? You know what I mean? Like, Like Oppenheimer, you really, when you saw the trailer, you really wanted to see where it went, right? Because I think the Manhattan Project too, because it's so close to home and kind of was an important part of history, right? But the Odyssey is, I've been living with the Odyssey since I was a little kid, right? So, and I am, I love the story and all the little stories that came out of the Odyssey. But yeah, I mean, Kimmel the other day sort of went, he was talking about the Odyssey and he said, I can't believe they cast that loser as the lead role, Are you still there?
Yep.
I mean, Matt Damon, right?
Yeah.
Anyway. So, just once for Jaime, you'll be pleased to know that the Paw Patrol Dino movie is coming out. It's the third Paw Patrol movie, and of course, it's the Paw Patrol kids, the pups, and dinosaurs. What else? What else do you want? Big bag of popcorn and some dirty dishes, some laundry, right?
Some laundry in the basket.
I don't think I ever saw the second one, so I'm a little behind on the lore. But I did see the first one where I said, this is a Sunday afternoon when you're doing, washing the dishes and washing laundry kind of movie. And I was shocked at who was the writer that had aspirations for greater things, but then was forced to do this and made a surprisingly good story? Again, the first one.
Maybe he chose to do it.
I don't know. I feel like they had the writer had greater aspirations and was slumming it, and they made it as good as they could given what was available. Here I am looking at the of course, in the first movie they introduce a new character so they can sell new toys and etc. I went to the movie poster for this. I'm like, oh, so there's a new dog. Okay, that's another toy. And it's like, wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm like, shouldn't there be 7? Did one of them die? See, now I got to go back and see the second movie. And see
yeah. And maybe you retired from acting. Who knows?
You get too old. Is it like Menudo? You get too old to be a pup. Once you become an adult dog, you can no longer be part of the team.
Yeah. And then so my fourth pick is this. This just came out. I just saw this today that the Mario Galaxy movie is now on Apple TV in 3D for Vision Pro. But I just wanted to point out that it has been the last movie to come out in 3D available for Vision Pro was Zootopia 2 on March 19th. I'm telling you this on May 21st. So it's been 2 months since the title came out. A new title came out. Things have gone on sale. Like I did buy the Mad Max Fury Road for $4.99 a couple of days ago to watch because it's a really good movie. But yeah, interesting that it's it's taken that long. I think before that was I think Jaws came out in 3D and something else, and then Wicked for Good was back in February. So it's really slow delivery of 3D assets to the Apple TV. And I'm still curious if anybody has the Android versions of these, or even the Meta Meta Quest, whether you can watch movies in 3D on those platforms too, right? So kind of surprising. And then my third one, I forgot that I watched this week. I watched Marty Life is Short, which is the documentary about Martin Short. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's on Netflix. Really good. I mean, it's got, everybody that's in it. It talks about Martin Short and his sort of career and his wife and how they met on the original cast of Godspell. I think she was Andrea Martin, or who was the one that went to Saturday Night Live? Gilda Radner. Mm-hmm. I think she was her understudy. So that's how they met. And they were lifelong friends and whatever. And so there's a couple of lines in the movie where, you go to therapy and you say, like, you're there for couples therapy, and you say, the therapist asks, is there any couples in your life that, you'd like to be like, or have the kind of relationship they have? And they would all say Marty and Donna. And the therapist would say to them, you'd be surprised how many people say that couple, right? And then the other one is that Steve Martin. So I went into it, I wasn't expecting much out of it, but I really did enjoy it. And Steve Martin says, you arrange a party, you invite all the guests. If Marty doesn't come, you cancel the party.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're at least curious, I mean, it's got all the they must have had a great cottage because like he would have like Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd and Steve Martin and the Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell would come because they all their cottage was north of Peterborough, or on the Parry Sound side of Georgian Bay. Mm-hmm. And of course, Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell famously have a cottage on Stony Lake, which is just south of our old cottage. So yeah, so that's my picks. So yeah,
mine is a montage about Andor's Luthien Rail, largely because I knew that probably one of you two guys would be choosing the Mandalorian Grogu, so I wanted to go with the Star Wars theme. And then this, seeing what's going on with the boys and just, global politics in general, it's kind of nice to look back and say, man, Andor also sort of really, told us where the hockey puck was going, right? So fun little montage and a great character.
Yeah, I saw a post a while back about, was it Minnesota, where the somebody posted pictures of, was the big battle in, or the big thing where they shot all the
where
protesters.
ICE got in and killed two people.
No, but it was parallel to the scene in what was the name of that city or planet in Andor?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do.
That one. Yeah.
Yep, that one.
Good. Fact check next week. Gotta have something.
I had to add this to our watch list because I saw this earlier. At first, I thought it was a joke, but then I have discovered it is not a joke. And I'm genuinely surprised that it's not a joke. So we've talked several times on this show about popcorn buckets and the trend of funny and quirky and weird popcorn buckets. The ones that came out for for Deadpool and Wolverine were pretty funny with the open mouths and stuff like that. The one that they parodied on The Boys a couple weeks ago with the Deep, where it's like Deep's mouth, and that was pretty over the top and funny. For Scary Movie 6, which is coming out in 2 weeks, the popcorn buckets are bongs, which completely checks out. Completely checks out. So the Wayans brothers, of course, are behind the Scary Movie franchise. There is a lot of cannabis humor, marijuana humor in the movies, and yes, so I saw somebody post this, and I was like, okay, that's got to be AI. There's just no way they're going to sell clear bongs that say Scary Movie 6 on them at the movie theater. Oh no, they are. Not only are they selling them, but they're selling them in different sizes. So you can get, the child size bong, or you can get the gigantic tall bong filled with popcorn. Wow. It's pretty crazy. I put a link to an article, and I put a link to the Instagram photos of this thing for everyone to have a look. It is pretty crazy spectacular, and I still feels like it's a joke to me. I'm still not sure I fully believe, but damn, that's funny.
Yeah, I can't see them handing out glass, right?
I think it's plastic, but anyway. If you're a collector of weird popcorn buckets, I don't know that you're going to top that one. That's pretty weird.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess that's it for another week. So, Jonathan, people going to get in touch with you. Where would they find you? Oh, by the way, fact check. Gorman was the name of the city.
There.
That's right. Sorry. So once again, Jonathan, people want to get in touch with you. Where would they find you? In Gorman? Would you be in Gorman?
No, Gorman's a bad place to be. I believe it was strip mined. Not so hot anymore. No, if you want to find me, start with our Slack channel. Love to have a conversation with you there. Always fun to talk nerdy things on our Slack channel. Otherwise, you can find me on Instagram. I'm at JPK News, or you can find me on I'm at JPK.
And Jaime, if people want in touch with you, where will they find you?
I'm on Instagram as at Dev with the Hair.
All right. Well, my name is Tim Mitra. I am in Gorman on that handle. Also, the Instagram, the Substack, the Mastodon, of course, Bluesky. Yeah, so until next time, we'll see you in the future. Bye.
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 You've been listening to the Spotcast Podcast. If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spotcast website at spotcast.com. If you have feedback or questions, you can get in touch with us on the website. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/spotcast. You can find details on how to help us on our website, spotcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
Anytime you listen to this episode, we'll see them in the future, right?
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Right, now I got to figure out how to do this popcorn bucket thing.
Yeah, again, no. I get it.
What else going?
I was just copying that from my phone, so whatever.
How about those Victoire?
Oh,
I have a question about those Victoire. So they call that second goal a jailbreak goal. Why was it a jailbreak goal? Was somebody in the penalty box at the time or something?
Yeah, it's somebody who's popping out of the box. Usually that's why it's called a jailbreak. Because you join the rush right out of the box.
Okay, I gotcha.
And I believe we just spoke a completely different language than anything Jaime will...
I knew how to spell Victoire close enough to get Victoire, jailbreak, goal. I'm like, okay, I see what happened here. I do not understand the context.
I have to go back and listen to the episode, but did you say denouement, but like denouement?
Denouement. Yeah, I think that a lot of Americans say denouement is denouement because that's an anglicized version.
And cupola and foyer.
Foyer, yes, foyer. There's a lot of.
I hear both foyer and foyer.
Niche.
We have a niche and niche. I've heard both. So it is definitely a case where we have the word, but we disagree on how to pronounce it consistently.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is because we are a bilingual country, we tend to go to the French pronunciation for a lot of French words, and so not intentionally to disrespect you, we say it the way that it's meant to be sent as opposed to anglicizing it. That being said, I have coworkers who anglicize their French names here in a bilingual province. Yeah, it's just over the course of time, instead of being like Robichaud, it's Robichaud. Or
Demarchand, Belanger and Ballinger.
Yep. As Demarchand, it would be Demerchant. Yeah, that happens. You know, somebody I met today was a Moyer, but they're Moyer.
Yeah. So Jaime, you've seen Pret a Manger. It's a store, like a restaurant, Pret and then A and then Manger, Mangr.
Yeah. I guess it's.
And how do you say it? How do you say it?
I would not have known how to say it because I only saw it in when I was in London, and it looks like Pret a Manger, but with accents, stress marks.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's probably French is what I guessed, and had no clue how to pronounce it.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was chatting with people in Chicago, but when I worked there a couple of years ago about it, and the way they said it was kind of funny, and I went, do you know what it means? It means ready to eat. It's like fast food, essentially, Do
you guys have I don't know what they are. I don't know if they're like a food services company. I think about them servicing corporate cafes. So like when I was at Boeing, it was Au Bon Pain, which is probably like pain or something, I don't know how that's pronounced in French, but Au Bon Pain is a great name for
pain is bread.
Pan is how we say it. Yeah.
Pan? Okay, yeah. Well, it looks like pain without,
I think the N
stress
is silent. Pan. Yeah.
Pan, yeah.
Oh, pan. Okay, there you go.
It's like Jaime. It's not Jamie or Jaime. It's Jaime, right? You say, how do you say your name again?
Jaime,
yeah. Like it's not how people normally say it. Took me years to learn how to say his name, so let's put it that way.
Yep. You're still working on my last name, so that's all good.
Yeah. Coolin?
That's the one. That's definitely it.
Well, it's funny, the first thing I learned about your name is how to spell it.
One of the funniest...
Kuehlein.
Leanne. One of the funniest things that I documented as I was raising my children is when my daughter went to school and they were teaching them to do printing. And so, it starts with regular printing, and then they start doing you got to string things together. So she had to spell her name, and then they started working on the last name. So I have this piece of paper where she's just written out her last name like 6 times in a row till she got it right. And I was like, yep, that checks out. Like, that's just a really unfair thing to do to a child, is to send them to school with a name like that.
George Stroumboulopoulos said it was years before he learned how to spell his last name. Yeah.
No, it's fair. It's fair.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. So I'm away the next 2 weeks. I don't know if we were going to do anything anyways, because there's not a lot to be done.
Nope. We can take a break.
Rick and Morty starts on Sunday, and I think the spin-off from The Earth to the Moon is coming next Friday.
Oh yeah, the what do you call it? I'll watch it and I'll report back to you, because I'm almost finished the For All Mankind. It's about almost near the end, and it's this last season is not good.
Yeah.
I can't see it. I think they are going to a 6th season, but I can't imagine them needing to for this season. It's so bad. But anyway, and I kind of want to like the show, but yeah, it's I think the 2nd or 3rd season was a bit wonky as well, but yeah, and then because it's Star City, it's called the new one, right?
That's right. And
it's sort of the Russian perspective on things. I mean, I'd rather see a show about Star City, the actual, like the real story, not because we don't know the real story of Star City. We know bits and pieces and bibs and bobs, but because it was behind the Iron Curtain, a lot of stuff that happened, like entire 30-40 people killed in an explosion kind of stuff, stories have never come out, but we've seen the films. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
No, I mean, it could be good.
And then we have the new Star Trek's coming out in June.
July. So June is House of the Dragon. So we're going to get, and so I'll keep updating as we get dates and stuff. I'll keep updating our calendar, but
Our calendar, yeah.
the next sort of collective thing. I mean, there's just the Masters of the Universe is coming on the 5th. We've got Disclosure Day coming on the 12th.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, we want to watch those. But the next thing I think that we were going to probably want to watch and continually talk about is House of the Dragon, which doesn't start until the 21st. So I don't know if we want to take that long of a break or if we want to do something in the interim. But and of course, you guys can always do whatever you want without me. But
I think I did watch the last two. I watched all but the last 2 episodes of the animated series. I think I did watch the other 2 in anticipation, and then something we had so much stuff we didn't talk about it, right? So
yeah, I got lost as to where you guys were at.
I can't find it anywhere. And I'll be hell bent to. And I'm going to cancel my Prime subscription because I can't imagine any reason for keeping it right now. Is it Prime? No,
it was Paramount. Was the one that we
in the States? It's on Paramount Plus for sure. I know that.
No, Prime with The Boys and Invincible was why I was. Oh, last week. That was the fact check from last week. I said incredible. I meant Invincible. I don't know if you got that when I was talking about it.
No, I must have missed that. So Spider Noir is coming next week to Prime.
Okay.
It honestly, I don't think it looks very good, but it maybe I'll be wrong. But yeah, the next sort of season-long thing I think that we're going to tackle is House of the Dragon starts on the 21st of June, and then that will dovetail into Strange New Worlds and to Silo. So that'll keep us going later this summer. We'll have sort of 3 overlapping shows, so that's certainly worth getting into. But yeah, there'll be a little.
And you said the Silo is going to be. It's a different take. It's
a prequel. I think they're probably going to do a little bit of back and forth because it would be weird to have an entire season where we don't see Rebecca Ferguson.
Well, because the trailer goes backwards, right? The trailer goes backwards, right?
Yeah, basically it rewinds everything we've seen and goes right back to the beginning. But that's what.
Well, the last episode we saw, there was like a steak dinner or something was happening, right?
Well, no, it was 2 people meeting in a restaurant because one of them is in working in government, and so. That will be the crux of the story, is basically how did we get to the point where we're at in Silo. That's how the middle book shift is basically told that way. So
yeah, have you seen Fallout? Did you watch Fallout?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because they had the same sort of
back and forth, and I mean,
how did we get here?
Green Arrow did that too, or Arrow, the series that was on for a number of years on WB, did that, where they kind of told you the story as it's happening, and then the origin story and flashbacks. So. But yeah, like I say, it seems like there's going to be a bunch of stuff to cover later in the year, but I'm going to be in Moncton for a work thing next week, and then I'm going to be in Montreal for a concert the week after that. And then I'm going to be at your house for a couple of days, so there's that.
All righty.
Cool.
Very good.
I'll get you later.
All right. Have a good one, guys. Talk to you
soon. Bye.
Later. Bye.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.